didn't get lost. I'm not quite sure what to call it. The disaster in the centre of Australia, or the astronomy trip that wasn't, or a walking holiday with a little bit of astronomy. What started it all was the Mars opposition, and it wasn't going to be that good again in 35 years. And even though I fortify my body with spirits and plenty of supplements, it's not going to last that long. So I decided we'd go to the centre of Australia. At least we wouldn't be bothered with the Melbourne overcast skies in June, July. That was the plan. The car needed an overhaul. It needed front wing bearing replacements, new spark plugs, oil changes, and all these sort of things. And I had bought a CGM equatorial go-to mount, and I was going to fit the 10-inch F5 tube of the dot to it, and then found out it was too heavy for the mount, because apparently when you calculate, when you specify what the mount can do, it's the optical tube assembly plus the counterweight, which I didn't know. So I then in a hurry had to get a Smith's Cassegrain, an 8-inch Smith's Cassegrain from Bintel, and then we had cloudy weather and I wasn't able to use the whole outfit together, and I said, all right, it'll work, we'll pack it all in the car. And basically, why does it go? It's supposed to. We tried it earlier. No. Does it have batteries?
Is everybody...
What about an arrow key?
Yeah, I'm using arrow key.
What about one of these keys? Here's the arrow keys. No?
Oh, come on, it did work before. Today, this here.
It's got something to do with this is open up in here.
Yeah, press the enter key.
You've got to get rid of that. Whatever that is up there is the problem.
Yep, thank you.
Mark the restart.
Nothing probably goes. Hang on.
Top left on the view as a slideshow.
View. It'll work. Get rid of this side.
You just click on the picture.
Should do it. Okay.
Just click on the picture. Like that. Double click.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, now.
This will work here.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
you can use those keys there.
Okay.
If that fails, okay?
Okay.
Arrow keys.
Here we go. Thank you, Greg.
No worries.
You can realise I'm a computer expert. That's the gear we had to take. Anna nearly had to stay at home. I made this great big box for the mount. It was new. You couldn't possibly ruin it. And if you go into the centre of Australia, everything has to be dust tight. That's the optical tube, the laptop, and that's a 10-inch old as, no, not a 10-inch, a 4-inch old as Celestron automatic telescope. The power supply and the camera here. There was no space left in the Nissan. Basically, we wanted to go into a place called Henbury Craters. We've been there before. It's a lovely spot. It's 40 kilometres off the main road, dirt road. The facilities there are a long drop toilet. If you haven't experienced a long drop toilet in the Northern Territory, it's something special. They really have designed it. They've got these great big 6-inch black plastic tubes, ventilators coming out of the back, about 12 or 14 foot up in the air, and they're painted black. And the summer sun, or the day sun, heats up the pipes, and you get a natural convection and a draft going through. So you sit on the drop hole and you feel a draft going past you, and there's no smell and there's no flies. Northern Territory engineering. Anyway, Henbury craters. There it is. It's south of Alice, about, I reckon about 180, 200 kilometres. On the way, the first day, we stopped at Geneva. It rained, of course. Anyone who wants to stop there, there's a council caravan park that has 16 spots and it costs $8. It has a toilet and a shower and grass. So what else could you wish for? Then we couldn't help but stop at Woomera. I've never been at Woomera. I've always sailed past there. Now, here are the craters at Henbury. The Henbury Meteor weighed several tons. In fact, a few tons of nickel iron have been recovered from the area.
There's actually pieces of it in the on display in the cabinet there.
Is there?
We had a member that went up there and came back with a pile of it. All illegal these days, but at the time it wasn't.
The biggest crater is about 180 metres across, and there's 5 craters, larger craters altogether. The Aborigines in that area don't go there because they believe that a fiery devil came out of the sun and landed in there. And the craters were formed about 42,000 years ago. So obviously the Aborigines had witnessed it from a distance, because they wouldn't have been close. It would have been too dangerous. Our camp for 4 days. There were other campers every day they came, stayed for the night and went again in caravans or 4-wheel drives. You can see the horizon is fairly low. It's excellent astronomy type area. No dew. I didn't even bother to put the dew bands onto the lenses. You could leave the telescope out all night and they'd get dry in the morning. Fantastic. In the skies, of course, were mind-blowing. That's why we came there. Here's the crater. I wonder if I can get rid of that mouse. Oh yes. It's marvellous, this technology. That's the largest crater. The countryside. And then at night time, the first night, we put up the telescopes, and you won't believe this. I left the red dot finder at home. Now, I can't do anything with without the red dot finder. I'm pretty hopeless with the binoculars. I'm hopeless with star hopping. I'm hopeless using the finder. It might have something to do with bifocals or whatever, because you look at the sky, then you have to take the glasses off and look through the finder, and you put the glasses on again, and so on, and look at the chart. It's hopeless. So, looking through the finder, you probably get a degree of view of the sky, whereas with the red dot finder, you look at the sky and you see this red dot, you know exactly where you're pointing. It's so easy to do with the red dot finder. So when I look for something, I aim the scope, look through the red dot finder where the dot points, and then it'll be close enough to the target, then look through the finder, which is a 9 by 50, right viewfinder, and then just put it in the crosshairs, and then by then it'll be a 25mm eyepiece. So we didn't have the finder, and I said, oh well, not to worry. I'll put up the, whoops, I pressed the wrong button again. Here is the red dot finder. Oh, it was at home. Oops. On a groove as the night goes on. The 4-inch Maksutov wasn't there. I said, I'll put up the 4-inch Maksutov. It's standing on top of the box, and I'll line it up, and it'll find what I'm looking for, and I can help it aim the 8-inch. The Maksutov looked for guide stars down here. And I put in negative latitude, I've tried everything. It just kept looking for guide stars down here. And then I remembered, some time back, I had it out all night and water had gotten into the hand controller and the computer spat the dummy. And when it dried out, I fired it up and everything seemed to be all right. So I paid no more attention, packed it in the box. Well, it rebooted to North America because that's where the market was for it. That's where the company lives. And I could have rebooted it, but it wanted gear ratios and everything else, which I didn't have. So I said, well, not to worry. I've got the laptop. there it is. And I've got a converter that converts the car battery to the laptop. The battery is aging. So I ran that for 10 minutes, and then the converter smoked and packed it up. So what do? You can't very well commit suicide in the centre of Australia. So I looked at all the goodies that I can find without technology, and I entertained some of the canvas with Omega Centauri and the likes, and TAC 47, and the Tarantula, and M42, and there wasn't much else I could find. And then we said, oh, well, what are we going to do? Oh, well, we camped every few days and had a few walks and watched the night sky. And then we decided, we looked at the map. Here's that naughty finder. We looked at the map and we said, okay, there's Goss's Bluff up here. Here it is. Here's Alice Spring. That's a Larapinda Drive, and that's a Namadura Drive. And there's Goss's Bluff. And I've always wanted to see Goss's Bluff. That's where they believe either an asteroid or a comet basically built off frozen carbon dioxide and ice hit the Earth 140 million years ago. Here's a road going up to it. I'll just get a picture of it. This is the West McDonald Range. And that's Goss's Bluff. You can see the size of it. That's the central crater where it hit. The walls are probably 200 meters high, solid rock. The road in is sand. It's 100 to 150 millimeters deep in places, so you need a bit of traction, especially if you're towing a little van. We didn't have trouble. I just took down the tyre pressure to 25, put it in four-wheel drive, we just drove it in and out. And then on the way back, we were on the bitumen pumping up the tyres with the bonnet open, and everyone pulled up to ask us whether we needed help, which was nice. That's a view from the space station. You notice there's a very faint ring around the outside. And there's two theories. One of them is that the impact produced the original crater around this. It's 22 kilometers in diameter. And it has since been eroded and has disappeared. And that the central bit down there is the rebound out of the center of the crater. The other theory is, there it is, the center bit that we saw there, the rock massive, was that bit, and the outer crater was that bit, and that's been eroded away. And the other theory was that the central crater was the impact zone, and the outer rim that's been eroded away was a debris that got ejected. So there's two theories, the same as the Big Bang Theory, right? There's many. Can it happen again? Just in that area around there, there is half a dozen craters that are around here, and it's going to happen again. And we're due for a hit. So they say. That's why I built a bunker. No, it's for bushfire, thanks. Here we are, we're inside the crater, looking across. Did you hear that? It's great. It took about, well, we walked around in there for about 2 hours.
So there's a road that you can actually drive.
Yeah, there's a gap in it where you can drive through into it.
What crater is this?
Goss.
Goss.
Goss's crater, Goss's bluff. It's very expensive for me, those trips, because I have to pay a lot for modelling fees. You know, it's quite a sizable crater. It's 5 kilometres across. And the legend that the Aborigines say is that they couldn't have possibly witnessed it. So how do they know it's a crater? The legend goes, the Arunti people, whatever they're called, the Star Women had a party up in the sky in the Milky Way and some dancing, and one mother put the baby down in the, let me see what it was called. Whoops. In the thing that they carry their babies in, it's called a turner. It's a basket. But while they weren't paying attention, the baby fell down to earth. And that's what made the big hole. And the tuna, which is the carrier for the baby, is still up in the sky. It's called, Corona Australis. And the father is still looking for the child, and he's the evening star, and the mother's still looking for the sky, and she's the morning star. So how did the Aborigines know that something came down from the sky and produced this? So maybe Henry Goss told them, but I think they had the legend before Henry Goss got there. So I thought that maybe they saw what happened or knew what happened at Henbury craters and extrapolated and made a story to suit. 142 million years ago. This is Mount Sonder. It's the 3rd highest peak in the Northern Territory. It's close by to, not very far away from Goss's Bluff. We thought we'd walk up there. We walked up there the last time we were in the centre, and we thought, oh well, the astronomy sort of fallen flat a bit. So we decided to walk up there, and we camped at a place called, in the National Park, Redbank Gorge. Redbank Gorge. And walking up towards a mountain, there was a terrific old tree, and it fascinated my camera, and I couldn't stop photographing it, and got off track. And next I knew, we were walking towards the gorge rather than up the mountain. We said, oh well, no harm done, we wanted to see that anyhow. That's Redbank Gorge. And there's a mountain. We're partway up here. We didn't, oops, well, pressed the wrong button again. Here we go. I must be better at this eventually. Here we are. We had a late start, and we only got up to about that far up on the saddle. We didn't want to go back in the dark. Here's another tree. It looks a bit like a caffy, a spaniel dog. And here we are. We got that far. And then a bit further along, there's a place called Ormiston Gorge. I don't know whether anyone's been there. If you're in the centre, in Yalla Springs somewhere, you can't miss it. It's a photographer's paradise. We walked it 3 times, I think, the gorge. Once there and back, and then once over the top and back out again. So I had to lock down the automatic white control, white balance, because there's so much orange, it plays up with the automatic white balance. Now there were some rocks that were actually purplish in colour. I don't know whether one of our chemists down here can tell us what makes them purple. I thought maybe manganese. Here's more purple rocks. Modelling fees again. Am I going backward? No.
Yeah.
What's going on here? I'm still pressing the same button. Ah, here we go. This is obviously an old riverbed, because you can see the watermarks in the rocks. Here again. Now, this is not graffiti, this is actually in the rock. I had to pay extra there for the modelling fee there. Purple rocks again. And then there's an opportunity to have a high level walk along the cliff faces, so you can see the whole thing from the top.
So there's constructed pathways though.
Yeah, it's through the gorge there isn't, but you know it's doable. It's definitely not wheelchair friendly. That's what our accommodation folds up into, an oversized trailer. The next place was the ochre pits. That's where the Aborigines collected ochre and then traded it with other tribes further afield. There's purple type ochre, yellow and red. Then we came across a place as a roadside stop, a little bit up the hill, and it showed a sign of a mobile phone. And we were trying to contact Alex and Helen Dixon, and we couldn't get them. So I said, oh, hooray! So we pulled in, got the mobile phone out. Nothing, bullshit. What goes? Then I investigated what this was all about, and I walked over, and there was a plaque there to describe what happens. The mobile signal hits this plate, bounces off and gets directed on this mirror, and it focuses on this spot, and it says, put your mobile phone there, put it on speakerphone, and within 30 seconds you get 1 bar. And bingo! We've got 1 bar, and we've got a text to say, we've missed it by 1 day. Oh dear. That's a low-tech solution. I think I need this in Red Hill. There's lots of gaps along in the West McDonald Range, and we drove along, and then of course we had to see all of those.
Is the water from rivers that are working through?
No, they're just
groundwater.
Yeah, just groundwater or water that's collected. I've got a fetish for trees. Sorry about that. these are all different gaps. There's about half a dozen along there going towards Alice. But it's worthwhile getting off the road and seeing all of those. I carry a full set of tools with the car, and it's about a quarter of my loading space in the back. And on one of those gaps, there were a lot of people there. Everyone must have been there. We thought we'd have lunch there. So we walked around there, we took our photos and all this, and there was hardly any space left to camp, or not to camp, to park. So we parked at sort of a dirt roundabout, just enough space for one car to get past. And as we came back and hopped in the car, turned the key, and it said nothing. I turned the lights on, plenty of lights and everything, but it said nothing. I said, oh, the starter motor's hung up. It does that once every 2 years. The solution is you hit the starter motor with a hammer, but the trouble is you can't get to it very well, and the tools are buried underneath a heap of garbage. And everyone came over to give us the advice, you hit it with a hammer. And we did that, and it still didn't work. And there was this British couple, and he said to me, you know, what you do now is you close your eyes, and we do wishful thinking. So we thought, oh well, we closed our eyes and went a minute or so and did some wishful thinking, and then I turned the key and it started. Now who says they were wrong?
What was he doing while your eyes were closed?
No, yours had closed his eyes. And then of course there is Stanley's Chasm. You can't miss Stanley's Chasm, everyone goes there, and even the tourist buses pull up. It's a lovely walk in there. A bit of fauna fun. Stanley's Chasm.
Beautiful.
Now how it's formed is the stuff is the sand, etc. is deposited under the sea, and then some external pressure caused by tectonic plate movement, etc., is applied to the whole thing, and the thing upends, the layers upend, and a crack. And those cracks, you get dolerite, forces its way through it, and then later when the whole thing is exposed again to the air, when the top has worn off, and this whole area was, they say, as high as Mount Everest before erosion took the top of the West McDonnell Ranges, and then the whole thing surfaces again, and water flowing through it washes away and dissolves the dolerite and forms those gaps, and especially Stanley's Chasm. Here it is again, a bit bigger. Oops. Here we go. Simpson's Gap, and then we were back in Alice. We periodically had to go about every 5 or 7 days back to Alice Springs to have a shower, to wash clothes, to buy vegetables and fruit. Just an old friend here. And then we went over to the East McDonnell Range, which is the other side of Alice Springs. And there's a similar array of gaps. And then there's also Corroboree Rock. That's the rock that the Aborigines once a year have their corroboree under or around. And a lot of tribes in Europe also have these sort of meetings once a year. And I suspect it was a means of freshening up the gene pool. The rock is actually quite thin. It's quite unusual, isn't it? To have a solitary sort of monument. And in places you can look through it. The local Aborigines, the Aranta people, say it's got something to do with that monitor. They can be quite large. I've got photos in other places of Australia. They're 2 meters long. They're quite formidable. You sort of start to wonder whether you should approach them. And here we're going into East McDonald Range. We wanted to do a little bit of astronomy there. And guess what? It's cloudy. That place is called the Ghost Gum. It's marked on the map even as the Ghost Gum. It's huge, isn't it?
Are they common up there?
Sorry?
Are they common?
No, I'm just the only one. I've seen a couple of other small ones, but that's the only one I've seen that size.
And is it red? Is the wood red? You know, is the color of the wood red?
I wasn't going to chop into it.
No.
but the outside of it is white.
Yeah,
It's quite a monumental thing, isn't it?
it's fantastic.
Trafina Gorge. We had it's a national park. We camped in there, and then walked the gorge, walked along the top of the gorge, walked over the hill, and it was all hot weather. But you can see not much conducive to astronomy. But we had fun walking.
There they are.
That's walking over the top of it.
Looks like somebody's put bricks in it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, when we talked to the ranger, he said, he said, what are you going to do next? He said, oh, we'll drive in to see a place called Hayes Waterhole. And it's an 8-kilometre, very rocky drive. You need a high clearance vehicle. And he said, if you're going that way, it's compulsory to do the chain of ponds walk. And then he looked at me and he said, how agile are you? And I said, oh, I'm all right. So that was it. He said, when you get to the end, you can't go any further because there's a big drop. Don't panic. Just turn around and you see a little arrow going up on the rock. He said, that's where you climb up and get out. And then bypass the obstacle. And that's sort of a canyon like that goes around here like this and sort of passes it below it. It takes about an hour or two to walk up to here, round the back, and then another hour, 2 hours or so to walk back, come back down there. And here's a chain of ponds walk. It's wheelchair friendly. And that's Hayes Waterhole. We had climbed out of there. We found that arrow and climbed up. The thing was, don't look over your shoulder. It's a long way down.
Can you swim in there?
Sorry?
Can you swim in the waterhole?
I don't swim in any of those waterholes.
It's stagnant.
The water is pretty stagnant.
What are they, dead fish in there?
Not there. Some of the places we saw, that's just leaves. Some of the places we saw dead fish. There it is. It's a plagiarized photo from a postcard. And then we went back to Uluru and did the touristy things like you would. It takes 12 kilometres to walk around Uluru on the track, and in hot weather it's sort of wearing. We saw the field of lights. We couldn't miss that. I don't know whether it's still going. It's acres and acres of lamps. It's quite spectacular. And my dearest always wanted the camel ride, so we had a camel ride. They're quite lovely creatures. I always thought they were ugly. It's only one of the passengers down here that looks a bit ugly. The camel down here has got a sort of a thing on because it wants to nibble on the ears on the preceding camel. And the camel behind us, over there, was quite smoochy. He kept on walking up with his head around my shoulders, my elbow. And they're quite funny. When the first animal, they all lie down so you can hop on them. When the first camel gets up, they all hop up. So they start loading them up from the back, so that the other ones, the previous one, can't see that it's gotten up. Then, of course, Katachuka, the Olgas. It's all about walking there. And by then, my walking shoes had given up the ghost, and I had to have a trip into Alice Springs to buy a new set of walking boots. The soles had separated. Then we drove over to Kings Canyon, but there was no photography. It looked still overcast. To Kings Canyon, and just as we started to walk up there, a Chinese tourist bus or Japanese tourist bus pulled up, and the whole got out. And there was one young guy got about halfway up to about here, somewhere in here. And we were going up and going past him, and he just couldn't believe that oldies like us could go up a hill like this. The rest of the people with the bus stayed down there. Mind you, I had to have a stop or two. It's 400 million years old, 440 million years old in the older spot, and it's very well eroded, but it's spectacular. If you're in that area, you shouldn't miss it. The effort is well worth it. There's lots of signs not to get too close to the edges. You know, we live in a nanny state. Don't walk off the cliff because you fall down. That sort of stuff. But I'll show you something here. I think I can see those people over there.
They couldn't read.
Sorry?
They couldn't read.
Well, I'll see if I can enlarge this. I should be able to. Actual size, that's what we want. Ah, here we go.
If you zoom in, can you see someone halfway falling down?
Use the slide.
That would be really
The slide on the right hand side.
Oh, yeah.
Click on the slide.
Yeah, that's it. You.
No.
Gone too far.
No.
Just click on it.
There you go.
Click on the slide.
Oh no.
Oh.
Oh.
There's a bikini girl sitting there, dangling her feet over the edges.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't want the brother to pretend to scare her and then accidentally push her off.
That's right. Definitely not.
Saved your life. Oops. Bye, sister. That's funny.
And after that, we then went through South Australia, and of course, it's compulsory for us to pull in at Hahndorf because there's bratwurst, Munich beer, Black Forest cherry cake, and coffee, and all this good stuff. And it bucketed down raining for two days. It rained and rained and rained. And On the way back, there was a place called Sack Castle. It's just south of the Arabiles Mountains. And I thought I'd have a look at that to see whether there's any good for astronomy. Definitely not. There's too many trees. And we thought maybe it'd also be good for bird watching. Yes, definitely good for bird watching. The camping area is terrific. But no astronomy from then on either, because it rained all the way back into Melbourne. So the astronomy trip, that wasn't, I call it. But it
Yeah,
did
blue
a good
skies
lot of
most of the
walking.
way, yeah.
A good lot of walking. Thank you for your patience. Do you want to know anything? I should have said you can interject and boo me any time. It's a bit late for that now.
How many nights did you get the scope out? You reckon in total?
Sorry?
How many nights?
About 3 nights. Yeah, 4 nights. We also saw an eclipse of the moon, a partial eclipse of the moon when we stayed at Arolanda Roadhouse one night in the camping area there. We were the only people having a look.
For those like me who are not mechanically minded,
Yes.
what happens if there's a breakdown? Have you got sort of somebody coming out to rescue you, or like RACD, or?
Well, I'm an RSC member and I pay extra care because if you have a four-wheel drive, a large four-wheel drive, you have to be an extra care anyhow. They will not come out unless you've got extra care.
So they'll come
They will not change
these
the wheel.
places only.
They will not change your wheel unless you have extra care.
What's extra care?
Extra care, extra money.
Is extra care something you pay in advance?
Yeah, you pay your RSC membership. You
Like
pay.
regular tent if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Ordinary membership and extra care membership.
Yeah.
Until you get to be a life member like me, and it's all for free.
Well,
Except when you take the four-wheel drive in the second street.
You don't get that. in
No,
this
you
one,
got to do specials.
I carry a toolbox that big, just lift it.
Yeah, I know.
I can do basically a lot of repairs.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Tell me, I was going to ask, I went to dinner tonight and ate my meal with a knife and fork.
Knife.
Knife.
Yeah.
What's your surname?
It's Knabe.
Correct. There are no silent letters in German.
No.
Here we are. I just want to confirm that.
It's short for young man. And somehow they missed it. They got it wrong.
So it's Knabe. Knabe. Knabe? All the letters have to be
All
round.
that.
It's Roland Knabe.
But we anglicise it. We call it Knabe. Knabe with a K.
Here we are now. We'll tell everybody if I want to get it right. I've got to pronounce it.
How do you say it in German, Roland? Knabe?
Knabe.
No.
But we say Knabe here. Knabe with a K. And then I quickly say afterwards, it's short for Smith. This is Windows for you. You press start and then you turn off. And then you turn off again.
Yep, that's right.
And then it turns off.
That was very good.
Thank you, Roland.
Well, thank you for your patience.
The program runs PowerPoint. What's the program called? It's called.
It's just a,
Load all the pictures into it.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to realise that they had put in for the first number 1, 001.
But what's wrong with PowerPoint?
I'm trying to muck around with this.
PowerPoint doesn't, it doesn't take that long.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
I thought you were a keynote.
Yes, but I can convert to PowerPoint very simply because I've made a keynote.
The thing that impressed me there was the colours in the photograph. Obviously very colourful trip.
Yeah, it was.
Do you want to draw the raffle? Always get the speaker to draw the raffle.
I'm a cheat because last time I got a ticket right.
You can't cheat on this.
Yeah.
What do we want? 1, 2, 3, Or 5 tickets. Sorry about that.
Ah, is it 2 tickets? No, it's just
No, you've ripped it in half.
28.
Oh, I'm at like
Anyone want?
28. 28.
What?
28. Going.
What is it?
28. They're all blue.
They're all blue.
They're all blue. 28. Blue 28. Okay, Fred. We need to see the ticket as proof first.
Well, hang on, let's get out of my bleeding seat.
She's not in the seat, the ticket ain't got out of his seat yet.
Okay, well,
You went to the front of the
Okay.
he wants to be seated.
Ain't got out of his seat, I want to see the ticket.
49. F49 blue, to be exact. F49 blue.
There's proof.
Well, honestly, check that. No.
Yeah, we don't normally check it. It's just that we always check Fred. Right, sorry. They're all ripped up for some reason.
F55.
55. You don't have to Jennifer. You could just come.
We'll trust you, yeah.
You what? You trust
We'll
me?
trust you, yeah, we'll trust you.
Since when? 55. Right, you got a choice between that. The side cut is in there by the look of it, so that will be perfect. Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
Walks right out of a bleeding coke and a shot with his. He'd be throwing at me some beer like a bleeding coke and a shot.
Oh,
Can we get a white one again?
this got ripped down here.
Oh,
What do you reckon that number is? 44?
That's 44, yeah.
I think I've got it.
I had to remember that one. There was 44 and 43, yeah.
Here you go.
Oh, yeah, okay. What would you like?
I think I'll pass. Because I actually got one of those last. What's this?
That's a blanket.
Thank you. But I got one of those last time.
That's a blanket you can use at bus truck.
What?
At the bus truck. Get up in the
Ah,
back
that's
house.
right, yeah.
Another one, is there?
One more to go.
I had to buy that one last time.
Sorry?
I had to buy it because I wanted that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't win it. I never stopped using it. It's fantastic.
106.
106.
No, it's 31.
31.
31.
I was going to say there's only 100.
I just wanted to see whether you're awake.
Back with it again.
Okay. Fred's very magnanimous. We need another one.
What, do you want me to pick it? Do you?
Yeah, no, Fred doesn't want it.
Why do you screw it up so hard?
I was concentrating on the speaker, so I was just throwing it.
This felt like it's someone chewed it. 65.
Probably could use one.
That's
What is that? The Briars,
No, it's an extended magnet.
magnet, I think got magnet on the other end.
Yeah, so you can pick up when you drop the nail.
I had my eye on it last time, and I didn't win it. It was left there, so I thought, how much do one for it? And bought it, put them back.
Okay.
Right, it's a good thing. Because I'm always dropping shots.
The noise you heard? Sorry? The noise that you heard?
Is that it? Is that we adjourn now? What's he gonna do? Try for the month.
Don't wonder I lost track of what happened. Looking for this apartment with a black It's very stuck,
That's meant to have these sensors. So that's fine.
We've still got some of these for sale, haven't we? I think we've still got some of these for sale. Are you missing one?
Yeah, I can I have all that here.
Okay. I put this up every time. So you can see that Venus is getting smaller. That's about the only change there. And Mercury up the top, the little black dot, that means it must be in front of the Sun. So Mars is still in the sky. Here's Mars here, and Mars is tracking eastward across the sky. So Mars is travelling past the Seven Sisters up to there. So next month you can see that it's below Aldebaran. So Mars will travel pretty quickly across the sky in 1 month, a fair way. So the whole sky is moving down, but Mars is powering up. So Mars is hanging around on the horizon for quite a while. So we still get to see Mars for a bit longer. And so, but when it gets over near Aldebaran, we'll pretty much have two Marses in the sky, because Aldebaran looks a bit like Mars. So if you can't find Mars, you just point out Aldebaran and say, well, there's Mars, and most people just believe you. So in the morning sky, most of the planets are in the morning sky. So if you get up at 5 o'clock each morning and look to the east, you would have seen Venus travelling down past Jupiter, and then it goes past Saturn. So it's already gone past Saturn just a few days ago. I think it was cloudy that morning. So and then next month you'll see Venus getting lower and lower, and it does go past Mercury. Mercury's down the bottom there. So the following month.
So if you looked at Mercury when it's in front of the Sun during daytime with a solar filter on a telescope or binoculars, would you be able to see it eclipsing the Sun?
Only on a transit year.
Yeah, very rarely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, only on transit. Yeah, I have
In the
done it.
30s, I think it is.
Yeah, we have done it here. We've filmed it going right across.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have done it. So there is a bit of meteor activity, but it's hard to pick it out between the sporadics, and it goes over a long period between the 25th of February and the 28th of March. So this is the only meteor shower it's on at the moment. So, well, I'll start this up. Start Starry Night. So, at 10:40 tonight, if you scan around the sky, no planets in the sky anywhere. After 10:40. So, no planets. So, and if we move the time forward, it's not until after 2 o'clock until we see the planets, some planet, 2 o'clock comes up. After 2 o'clock. There are no planets in the sky. Don't see that very often. Alright, okay. So, stop you. Come back. Here. In the centre. Now, see if this actually works. Time. Yeah. Okay, so on the 28th of February, our first shadow transit on Jupiter. If you're out looking at Jupiter, you can see your shadow transit. Oh, there isn't here. Yeah, so this is, you see the time there. So it's around 2:30. You'll see a shadow, a shadow going onto Jupiter if you're up. And this is really the first easiest one of this year. So, but they come like every few days after this. So, and then you'll see Io going onto the surface, just in front of Jupiter. You'll see where it just crosses over, but as soon as it goes into about there, it disappears. It's just that the edge of Jupiter is not quite as bright on the edge, so you'll see a bit of a glow. So that's our first one. So I'll put together, in the next newsletter, I'll put together a list of them so you can go see when they're happening, so just to make it easy. So, and I'll just mention this one quickly. So it's a fair way ahead, but in April, the 25th of April, just in case they get in the caravan and go and there's no one around, but I will put it in the newsletter. The moon will be low on the horizon, but Saturn will be right next to it. We just get rid of the horizon here, like there. So, and just centre that. So it is low. So we have a clear eastern horizon here. So we're here that night. It's actually 10:30. I've got the daylight savings on. So it's about 10:30, and you'll see Saturn on the edge of the moon. So
And that's Anzac Day.
the 25th of April.
It's Anzac Day.
Could be.
It is.
Right. So is that a holiday?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so there's no excuse. We're allowed to start all night.
Yes, yes.
I don't have to go to work or
Yeah,
anything.
not sure what day of the week it is this year.
Okay.
They have a race until they get on the march.
So
What day of the week is Anzac Day this year?
you see,
It's the 25th.
you'll see
Anyway, there it is there.
you'll see the moon's disappearing behind it. It is very low on the horizon, but about an hour later it'll pop out the other side, and that'll be like 11:30ish.
Yeah.
So you've got a second photo opportunity on the same night. Yeah. Also, on this same night, there is, early on in the night, there's a shadow transit on Jupiter. So if we're here earlier, there is a shadow transit on Jupiter that night, and then we can do this afterwards. Yeah, so there's a couple of things happening that night. Right, okay. Went up to Mount Burnett. They had an open day. They advertised it on Facebook like a week or 2 weeks ago. So this is their new, it's maybe a 4-metre domed observatory. They had one of these GoFundMe pages on the internet, and people were putting money in and the numbers were going up, and when the numbers got sufficient, are able to spend some money on this. So they had some solar telescopes set up, all sorts of displays. It was quite a good day. It was this fellow demonstrating things. They had a couple of PST telescopes. The idea behind this telescope is the light goes through that lens, hits a mirror here, and then bounces up and hits another mirror, or just use my pointer, hits another mirror there, so the light comes through here, bounces off there, and then projects onto this bit of paper. So it's a safe way of viewing the sun. The only way you could do some damage is you've got to be able to fit your head inside this box in that area. If you get your head in there, well then you probably deserve getting your ear burnt off.
Well, the paper catches fire if the lens focuses a bit on the paper instead.
That's right, yeah, that might work too. There's a pointer here, like a little sundial. So, you know, you just set that up so there's no shadow. So it's a pretty basic thing, but it works. This is their telescope. This is a 14-inch. This is very similar to the Meade we've got, but this is the Celestron version. It was all very shiny too. Ours is getting very dusty.
Who isn't in the answer?
So, yeah, proves that I was there. Yep, and this was it here. A bit of a spiel about it. Some politician looks like he came out and broke a bottle of champagne over it or something, or whatever they do. Politicians always want to get their name on something.
How
So
much
this
room
is
is in the observatory?
the fiberglass one, or this one.
The photograph, new one.
I think it's about it looks like about 4 metre in diameter.
Right.
Yeah, so, but the doorway was very low. Maybe they had to duck in, so the walls were very short. The dome was quite big, but it had a low profile because of the size of the door.
It's a pygmy observatory.
Yeah, you can see the door there is not very high. Yeah. So this is the old Monash Observatory that was built up at Mount Burnett in the 70s, and fell into disrepair, and it was offered to the ASV, and the ASV said too much trouble. So a group of ASV people and the locals got together and started a new society, and they've cleaned this up, and they've done a great job. It really looks nice, the place. They've done a lot of work there. So that's a bit of blurb about it. I'll put this in the newsletter, so you won't have to read that. And it was just interesting the way that the pulleys worked and opened the slots and things like that. That's why I photographed this. It always has a nice feel sitting in the dome, and you feel like you're in a real observatory. And it's a pretty big telescope too. And it's a bit of a tank. It's really overcomplicated. So lots of weights and lots of gears.
18-inch aperture, isn't it?
18 or 16, I can't remember.
I thought it was 18 anyway.
I think it might only be 16. This is their tracking. They don't have a full circle. They can do about 2 hours of tracking, and then they've got to lift up a lever, swing the whole thing back, and drop the gear back onto it. So it was a big, heavy thing. There's very steep stairs you've got to climb up like a ladder to get up to here, and they've got LED lighting on it. But it looks a bit of a hazard. So you can see this is all the drive mechanism in here, and there's lots of. They had spectroscopes and all sorts of things that hooked up to this, and there's lots of gadgets there, and a lot of them really couldn't figure out what it did. It was overcomplicated.
It was owned by a university, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, they thought they'll make it the hardest way they can make it. Yeah, they're probably looking for some serious accuracy or something, and they thought this would be the most accurate way. So I photographed it in detail, all of the cogs and wheels and motors. This is the front end of the telescope, and what it has two mirrors. It has a curved like Cassegrain mirror, and then it has one on the angle for a Newtonian design. So what you can do, you can actually pull a pin out over here, and then the whole spider will flip around. So this mirror will be facing the primary mirror. The primary mirror is that bit down there. So the whole spider flips around 180 degrees. So you've got a choice between two secondary mirrors. So this curved mirror at the back would send the light out through that tube like a Cassegrain configuration, and then this mirror on the angle, if that was being used, it would just send it out the side of the telescope to like a Newtonian. So this is the Newtonian eyepiece focuser up here, and then this is the Cassegrain end down here, and there's another spot for an eyepiece here, and I figured out they must have been able to put another mirror up the inside of here and direct the light out there for some reason. We don't know why. This has been reconfigured, this telescope, quite a few times. Originally had a wooden tube, now it's got a metal tube. The wooden tube wasn't accurate enough for the spectroscopy work that they were doing, and it kept changing. So, and all the equipment is still there downstairs, all this spectroscopy measuring equipment and that. So, yeah. So all a bit over-engineered.
Like a tank.
Yeah, so it's on a big concrete pier that comes up through the floor. So that's not actually, the floor's not in contact with the concrete block. There's half-inch gap there. So you can sweep all the floor sweepings down the hole. The guy working down the bottom. Clean it up. This was a nice planisphere on the wall that was there as part of the observatory. It's a very well made thing too, and it's been cleaned up. So, and very accurate looking. So, a few photos. Then we opened it up and we started talking to someone. They said, "Oh, you can open it up and look inside." So we had a look inside, and it's a very nicely made thing. Bit of information on there, what things were on the chart. It's got tells you what they are, what objects. There's objects on there, galaxies and all sorts of things. There were some clocks there that had been reconditioned by an ASV member, Ken Beard. He's fixed these clocks up and remounted them. And one's a sidereal clock and one's an ordinary clock. So what they're basically saying here is they've removed one of the teeth from one of the gears or something to make it sidereal, so it turns at the rate the Earth does, the clock. So it's like 4 minutes out or something, isn't it? 4 minutes,
4 minutes short.
4 minutes short. Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is downstairs. There's a little bit of workshop area. And this is some of the instruments that they used. We're still there. There was this happy guy down the bottom there, eager to tell people what everything is down there. And like there's instruments here for spectroscope parts. Still all there. Someone's donated this telescope there. It's a refractor inside that, but they've done a beautiful job on all the woodwork to make this telescope. And the base all folds up as well, so it is portable. Bit of a work of art. Got some information here. So it's a 5-inch f12. What is that? 96. Yeah. Outside, you've got another observatory with a roll-off roof. It's go either way, and it's a bit run down, and they're actually working on it now. There was an old telescope in there, and they're trying to fix it up and get it going. And it goes onto that pier there, and it's got a bit of a knuckle on it, a funny angle on this pier. So, they had a Dobsonian in there. It's like one of these 16-inch or 18-inch shop ones. Go to. I don't know if it belonged to someone, but you could. They might have bought it. So, yeah. We always have a situation with name tags here. We keep losing them. So all the members leave their name tags at the society there. So they walk in, they pick up their name tag, put it on, and when they leave, they hang it on the board. And a few clubs do something like that.
We do have a box here as well, so if you are afraid of losing your badge, you can actually drop it in the box outside near the front desk. One of the members will take your badge there and put it in.
Having them on the wall, you could just probably walk up and pick it up where you left it from last time. Yeah, so there's that pier that there's a telescope that goes on there. There's a library. If you look over this guy's shoulder here, you can see there's light coming through the walls. These gaps are right around the whole building. There's been like bits of mortar put in there and it's all falling out. So the wind just blows through this building. It's treated pine logs. So those gaps are all the way around. And I just think, well, the moisture just must blow through this place.
It's called air conditioning.
Yeah, it's all right in the summer. It's behind a farmer's house. Everything's set up there. They rent that bit of land. I found this in an ASB newsletter. So this is the building of it back in the 70s. So this is the original. This is the same telescope here, and you can see that's got the wood here around there, and then this was a spectroscope bolted to the side of it. So if you look, this is the foundations down here, and all that solid trees now, like 20-metre high trees. And this marker is still there today. It's like a survey marker that's in amongst the trees. So you can't see in any view at all in that direction now.
It's 40 centimetre there too.
40,
40.
40, yeah, that'll be the...
Yeah.
40 centimetres. Oh, yeah, so it is the 16-inch, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so this is how they were using the telescope set up. They had the spectroscope off to the side here. So how that? Yeah, the telescope was built in Bendigo. Yeah. So and then that's assembling it over there, and there's another picture of the telescope. So this will be in. I'll put this in the newsletter, the next newsletter, which is going to come out at the end of the month. So that's that. Okay, have you been to the movies lately? Have you ever seen this book?
Yeah.
And you've seen the film? That came out last year, the film? There it is there. No, that's not it. Here it is. Oh, it's here somewhere. There it is, First Man. There it is. It was in the movies around Christmas time. Wasn't in the movies very long. People thought it wasn't very good, so it didn't stay in the movies. People didn't want to go and see it. So I bought the DVD and I thought, I'll watch it. Didn't really like it. Too much human emotion, not enough astronomy. And I thought, this is rubbish. That's a waste of $20, But then I found on the DVD the bonus material. Where was it? I did have the bonus material here. I know where it is. There it is. So it's worth buying just for the bonus material. Come on, little computer. just got to get past this part. I might play it one time up here on one of the nights. So you get all of these bits about the making of it. And these are little short videos.
Do I take it from coming out?
Tonight we're shooting Neil Armstrong's descent down the ladder, trying to recreate the famous televised footage of him saying the famous line when he stepped on the moon for the first time.
This will be good for all those people, the conspiracy people who said people didn't go to the moon. They did this in the quarry, and they reshaped the whole quarry to look like the moon. They did a fantastic job. The amount of work they did. And they had to build the rover, the lander.
That's a lot of pressure to do it justice and to get the details right.
Very surreal to be walking down the ladder, hearing those voices, saying those lines in the suit.
It's on a big screen, that's how he got up there so easy.
Breathing the oxygen that the suit's providing. It's very hard to explain.
You saw firsthand how amazing it is that they pulled this off with the technology that they had. The one real hiccup in the lunar descent were these computer alerts. It's 1201 and 1202 computer alerts.
Program alarm.
What's a 1202 alarm? The computers they had there obviously much less powerful than in your microwave, but that was how they got to the moon and back.
We don't have radar data.
They had left a switch on, a radar switch on, and it just overwhelmed the computer. They were descending from lunar orbit down to the surface, and the alarms were blaring, and basically what people realized later was that the computers powering the LEM as it went in for landing just couldn't handle the amount of information. Suddenly their computer was not helpful in piloting them down to the surface. They had to do it manually. And then of course when they came closer to the surface, the landing area was much rougher terrain than they were expecting.
Tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed.
Guy comes out with the broom, that footprint's not right. Don't try and go.
Nathan creates this beautiful moon set, and the set is enormous. This is my first time landing on the moon, so you always go, oh, we need to smell like a quarry. The quarry was the only spot on the moon, but we need a great quarry, which is kind of rare. That's locations actually found a great quarry. Practical working quarries, they usually don't let you through the door. They were willing to sculpt the landscape to our direction to look like the moon. Locations like that, part of the joy of getting to tell this story.
There was a lot of pressure to get that right.
We were just trying to be as authentic as possible, but also trying to put a stamp on it that's unique to the movie.
We were shooting with lights that Monash, our cinematographer, had created to try and simulate sunlight. We were shooting with IMAX cameras.
We went through movies and photography from NASA, and the lenses we're using are actually the same lenses that they used on the moon when they took the still photos. We're using the same film stock to shoot the moon.
I was talking with astronauts who had walked on the moon, and they told me it was the most clear-eyed they had ever been in their life. As though they had just gotten a shot of adrenaline. It was like an awakened dream. They could hear everything better, they could see everything better, and everything was crystal clear, and yet their heart was going a million miles a minute.
We don't want to use CG, and the lunar lander couldn't have stood by itself. It was built for lunar gravity.
The lunar module is incredibly flimsy piece of machinery. It's designed to be as light as possible.
But you sit with construction, you sit with my teams, and we figure out how to make it
it's structurally sound and safe, that someone can get into it and climb the ladder. There's so many logistical items, just even building something that size, trunking it, getting it into the quarry, standing it, making it wind resistant.
In some ways, that sequence, because it was so well documented, there was a lot of material there to guide us and to refer to.
The natural challenges we've had is that it's suddenly started to snow, and it's been very, very cold.
Snowed on the moon. Where's the conspiracy guys?
Real moon, it varies between super hot and super cold, so maybe a little hostility of the elements is appropriate.
It's never about just the technicalities of it. It's all about making the audience feel something. That heightened level of consciousness. Because there is in history no more cosmic, grand, expansive adventure.
So they made this off that book that guy wrote. We'll run another one. We've got a little bit more time. This was filmed at NASA.
We were very lucky to have a lot of help from NASA and the Air Force.
Shooting in both of those locations was incredible to have that access. It was right at the end of the film, so it was interesting having shot the whole film on stages and in many places where the film didn't take place, to finally be in these historic locations.
This is not a science fiction story at all. This is very much history.
Being able to shoot in the actual locations, I mean, there's something to that.
It's a more fun way to make the film with the people who were really there, to hear their stories, to have them be involved actively in the shaping of it as well as they were in the shaping of history.
Whenever there is a choice between doing it real and fudging it, the choice has always been made to do it real, and that's pretty impressive.
Cape Canaveral, I mean, that was kind of amazing to shoot there. We were there with our Apollo 11 actors, with Corey Stoll playing Buzz Aldrin, Lucas Haas playing Mike Collins, and Brian playing Neil, obviously.
When you've got everybody working together behind the camera, in front of the camera, actually occupying that same space and that same world, it's really helpful. And there's a lot of really intangible things that happen that bring the audience into that world.
I feel really blessed to have gotten to see this stuff. I mean, I feel like it's almost changed my life in some way.
To be in those places where the experience had happened with people who had experienced it was pretty amazing.
We were able to use the actual van that they drove the astronauts to the launching pad that fateful morning.
You seeing those old moving pictures of those guys waving and going down, headed towards the rocket. Like, I'm the real astronaut. It's so spot on from what the actual experience must have been like.
We were able to use the actual building and doorways and everything that have all been kind of capped exactly as is for that scene as well. And then, of course, the actual crawler that they used to transport the Saturn V. The VAB building. You feel lucky enough to just see them, let alone to be able to shoot them.
Every time you look at the monitor, it's exciting because it's the actual thing. I feel like I was there, you know?
Then when we were out at Edwards Air Force Base,
and Joe Engel, who was the last living pilot to fly the X-15, was on set for the days that we were shooting those sequences.
That's the plane that we see Neil flying in the beginning of the movie, and that plane, that's a whole movie unto itself. That was a plane that looks like it shouldn't fly at all. It was dropped from a B-52, powered a rocket up to space, and then flew completely power-free for the rest of its mission. It's just an insane aircraft. To have Joe there and Ryan and all of us shooting again on the actual landing strip where it landed was another great moment. That was really cool.
It just was a much more fulfilling experience for us, and I hope that that's translated to the audience as well.
Okay, it's 10:10. We can go and have a cup of coffee, or we can keep going with more of these. It's your choice.
Oh, you're a smooth walker. Not only about going home.